Amanita muscaria. Well, Amanita muscaria is a very interesting mushroom. As you know, it's the mythical toadstool. Essentially, it's everywhere in literature and cartoons, and some people believe it's the origin of Christmas. Actually, the red and white outfit Santa dresses up in. The the story is that the shamans in Siberia would enter into the people's homes during the solstice and leave the amanitas as gifts because it would help with depression for the winter, and the stockings they would hang over the fire, the amanitas they would hang over the fire to dry, and it's just very it's very ubiquitous in culture, and it is in low doses. It's a very powerful analgesic, muscle relaxant, sedative. In higher doses, it tends to be disassociative. Could be very strange. Shamans use it to enter into different life forms, wolves, different animals. Reindeer. Well, the reindeer actually eat the mushroom, and that's maybe possibly the origin of the flying reindeer. They don't fly, but they drunkenly stomp around, and the people actually will consume the reindeer urine and get intoxicated on that. And the idea is that, and this is possibly why they say amanitas are poisonous, because ibotinic acid is actually, it's an NMDA antagonist. And with an NMDA antagonist, too much glutamate in the brain causes excitotoxicity, which can be damaging. But the ibotinic acid, when either heated or dried or cooked, decarboxylates and turns into muscimol, which is psychoactive. It's a GABA-A agonist. It's the only thing that binds to the GABA-A site like that it does. And it's what you can call a psychedelic inebriant. It's like a drunken-like state and drunken intoxication where the user generally becomes extremely sedated, falls asleep, and then after falling asleep has lucid dreaming, can receive teachings in the dream. In the Bon tradition, it was actually one of the sacraments they used to use in order to receive lineage teachings in the dream state. So it actually the Koryak people would use it as a vodka substitute during certain times of the year as well. I'm not quite too sure why, but I believe that it can be used as a replacement for alcohol or benzodiazepines to take people off of them. And it also, the way that they've done EEG studies on people and amanita intoxication, and generally for most psychedelics the EEG activity is disharmonious, but for amanita it produces a synchrony unlike anything else. So it puts the brain into a theta state, which is responsible for learning or binding of information. So it's a very powerful medicinal mushroom that I think is overlooked because of they say that it's poisonous, but if prepared properly and used with intention, there's actually ever been no reported deaths from Amanita muscaria intoxication. So I don't know why that is, but...
What's the preparation?
Drying, either you could use a dehydrator, 90 degrees for 1 to 2 days is possible. Air drying in the sun for 5 to 7 days is the preferred method. Heating over fire, ways some people prepare it, or made into a tea. But if you prepare it into a tea, you don't want to let it boil too intensely because that will destroy the muscimol as well. Ibotinic acid decarboxylates into muscimol around 170, 180 degrees. So you want to bring it to a low boil, a simmer for a few minutes, and then just let it steep for 20 minutes. And that's the way of getting the most out of it, essentially.
And you use the cap and the stem?
No, just the stem. The Native American tribes have used the stem for medicinal purposes, but a majority of the active component that you want, the muscimol, is contained within the skin of the cap. And the various colors generally denote potency, where the red of the Muscaria variety being the most potent, and the actually Amanita pantherina, the dark brown to bronze, are the most potent, but they also have a higher ratio of ibotenic acid. So yes, the skin is the most important.
So when you're taking it, how much would you take, and what part of the plant is like the specific what you're going for?
You would go for the cap,
mm-hmm.
and I would start small too, because not only every mushroom is different depending on when it's picked, where it's picked, and they just vary in potency, but also everyone's neurochemistry is different as well. So I suggest starting between 1 to 3 grams, whether eating it dry and nibbling or making a tea out of it, mm-hmm. and seeing how that affects you and working your way up from there. Generally, the upwards of 5 grams is the sedation, drunken-like intoxication, but it's not quite like a drunken state. You're much more clear, and we could hold a conversation. You don't feel as intoxicated. Upwards 5 to 10 grams, you start to get into the borderline dissociative state, and then 10 to 20 grams is generally a full-blown trip where you may experience disassociation, profound dreaming, profound intoxication, hallucinations, yes.
Mm-hmm. External and internal?
Both, yes. Yeah, people claim to go similar to the DMT, to other places, to other realms, to the center of the earth, visitations from dead relatives, things like that, or receive teachings. I had an experience one time. It was after a period of using dissociatives it got to the point where they became problematic for me, and I went to the hot spring, Saraville, and I made a 10-gram tea, and I was reading the book I Am That, and I consumed the tea and fell asleep, and I fell asleep, and I was having a dream where it was a question and answer session I didn't realize who it was or what it was with at the time, but the question I was asking was, I feel like my dissociative use is spiritual. It's, why is it problematic if I feel like this is a spiritual thing that I'm doing? And the answer I got essentially was, it is spiritual in the sense that you're annihilating yourself to get to the greater self, but in doing it in that way, you're incurring more suffering to yourself and to those who love you. So stop the suffering and wake up. And I woke up and I thought, that was very interesting. And a couple hours later, I was continuing along in the book, and it's at the end of the chapter, and the questioner asks him, he says, so what do you do in this world? And he answers, and the way he answered the question struck a chord with me. He says, so what do you do in this world? And he says, I did specifically enter your dreamlike state to stop the ceaseless suffering and wake up. And right then I felt like I got like a profound teaching, like, the voice of the impersonal spoke to me about my dissociative addiction and why it's not, it's more harmful than good, and it changed my dissociative use, and I haven't used dissociatives in about 2 years now, so tremendous healing power there.